You're listening to Beyond the Couch podcast with Dr. Sally Nazari, where we look at you beyond the couch and build ways to enrich your life, share your triumphs, achieve your goals, and most importantly, where we'll be celebrating you. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Couch podcast. I'm your host, licensed clinical psychologist and Reiki master teacher, Dr. Sally Nazari, and I'm very excited today. I'm here with Mallory Grimste, and I can't wait to chat with you guys about all of the wonderful ways that she can be a resource for you. Hi, Mallory.
Hi, Sally. I'm so excited to be here too. Thank you.
It's wonderful having you here. So, Mallory, tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
Sure. So I am a licensed clinical social worker, which is a type of mental health therapist. And I have a private practice in Woodridge, Connecticut, where I work mostly with teen girls, though I do see boys or people who identify as male, female. I'm not necessarily gender specific, but primarily those who identify as teen girls who are struggling with any sort of anxiety, depression, or just low self-esteem issues. And I help them learn how to feel more emotionally confident in their lives.
You know, I think that's a really important resource for teens in particular. There are a lot of struggles that they have, and you mentioned a couple of really important ones. So how does therapy for teens make a difference in navigating the different types of struggles and the disruptions that they're dealing with in their lives?
It can help in a variety of ways. So therapy is really how you want it to be. For the most part, the way I work with teens is I really like to give them a lot of power and control in how we use our sessions together. I'm there as a reflection and a guide for them. But ultimately, when you are a teenager, you're really trying to navigate who you are in this world and who you're going to become. We talk a lot about during this time period, you're going through what's called a developmental crisis, which is what is your identity versus role confusion, which is why you see teenagers like changing their style like every day or like changing their hair color or things like that. They're trying to figure out like who they are in this world. So having a space in therapy where you can kind of drop that or try on different personalities and mindsets can be really, really helpful in helping them clarify who they're going to become in the world.
I love the way you describe that. I think it is such a critical part of growing into ourselves and having a safe space to do that where you're comfortable and you're getting valuable feedback, as well as a way to just practice being the person that feels authentic to you is so invaluable.
Yeah, it's actually a really great honor to be part of that process with some of these kiddos. I do help kids with individual counseling. I also run a teen girls therapy group, which I love the group dynamics because what I was finding before running the group is I had all these kids coming, sitting on my couch, talking about how they were so different and so alone. And, I have like some kids who actually go to the same school. And I'm like, oh, if you guys would just know each other, you would realize that's not the case. And seeing how the girls who are in the group have just bonded and formed that connection and, that it's okay to be who you are, it's awesome.
I can imagine. And I think a couple of months ago, we actually did an episode on the value of group therapy. And what I hear you describing is the way that groups can show up for different teens who are going through the same kind of process. And for them, this is the way that they can start connecting. It would be amazing if they found each other in the real world outside of therapy on their own. But here you are linking them up in the group as an additional way that they can be supported and connected as they go through this process together.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for some people or for some teenagers, they're able to find that social connection and that bond naturally. Some people do a better job linking up with friendships that help reinforce like healthy boundaries with each other. Some not so much, and that's part of the learning process. What I like about the group therapy dynamic is all the girls have been pre-screened to make sure that they're going to be a good fit for each other, because I really don't want to set anybody up and be like, oh yeah, come to this great welcoming place, and if they're not going to jive well, that's a huge setup for them.
Right. It detracts from the whole experience and that safety that we were talking about.
Yeah, definitely. And you want it to be a positive, valuable experience for everybody who's involved.
As on the heels of that statement, things being a positive experience for everyone that's involved, what can we think about in terms of anxiety and stress for teens and their families?
Oh, I one of my favorite things to say, and my kiddos and my parents who I work with probably know this well from me, is, just because your kid is going through something doesn't mean that the whole family isn't also going through it with them. So I think
Well said.
Yeah, I think what happens a lot is it's very easy to get focused on the individual who's like right in front of you and forget about, there's parents and siblings attached to this person. And what they're going through is affecting other people as well, sometimes positively, sometimes not so positively. But it's really important not to ignore that fact. So there's kind of two ways that I incorporate families into my work. For group clients, it's really hard to do like actual separate family sessions. So what I do instead is I send out a weekly e-blast, just updating them, the highlights of what we worked on in group. Like what skill did we work on and how they can help reinforce that at home. And the parents that I work with seem to really enjoy and love that, which is very nice. And then with my individual clients, what I do is on a quarterly basis, at least on a quarterly basis, have a family meeting where we review and go over what were the goals in their own words that the kid and the parents wanted to work on for their child. And I really let the child or the teenager talk about that from their perspective and their experience first to get them, in that habit of reflecting, but then also communicating with their parents and helping their parents be able to hear what they're saying, helping reframe that a little bit sometimes. Because ultimately, I really don't want to be the forever person in these teens' lives. I really want them to learn how they can identify and communicate what they're feeling with their forever people, which are typically their parents or their caregivers. So if they can do that in those sessions, I'm like thrilled.
The forever people in their lives are going to be the people where having this skill set is most important. And for you to be able to bridge that gap and help them get started practicing that and building that for a life full of being able to draw on those things is really important. But it also sounds like it's important for the other family members as well. And it's not just a way of connecting and supporting the teen, but all of their family members too.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, we like to avoid feeling uncomfortable. I don't think anybody enjoys that for the most part. And usually what happens is when we avoid those difficult or uncomfortable topics or conversations, it can kind of grow into its own thing, and then it gets worse. And now you have a whole other issue on top of whatever the primary thing is going on. So if we can get them started to get into that habit of talking about the difficult stuff and being able to like handle and sit with that and feel good about that, from the parents and the teens' perspective, I think that's fabulous.
It is fabulous. I think it's one of the most important muscles we can build. And yet it's one of the more difficult ones to get started with.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I do this for a living, and sometimes I have to do my own little deep breathing beforehand.
I will echo that as well. So how can people get started learning to be more helpful to the teens that they love?
Well, I think one thing that people can do as caregivers or people who love and want to support the teens in their lives is really learning how to role model what they want to see from their teens. If you are somebody who, when you get mad and you yell, I would urge you not to be so surprised if your teenager reacts in that same way. If you're able to take a few moments and come from a curious perspective with your teen and say hey, what was that about? Even if you don't agree with their reasoning, just giving them that chance to respond is going to be huge.
Absolutely. I think it's an opportunity to better understand each other. And with that comes a different way of relating to each other. And I'm reminded a lot of what you said a couple of minutes back in looking at just the developmental stage that teens are in, that identity versus that role confusion. They are trying on different things. And if what we're modeling is accessible to them, it's familiar, it's available, it makes sense that that's something that they would be trying on. And maybe sometimes we don't see it from that perspective, but giving them the opportunity to help us see their perspective and have a frame of reference for what they're drawing upon makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. And, as you were saying that, I just had this thought come to mind about how, with trying on these different identities and role confusion and, who am I in this world and everything, I think it's really easy to take what our teens are saying at face value because I talk a lot about how teenagers like to save face and, not let you know that they're hearing and listening to you. I have this experience where when I was in graduate school going for my master's in social work, I was working at a group home for teenage girls. And the way that the house was set up was the staff office opened up into the living room area. So you could be in the office working on paperwork, but then also, supervising what was going on in the living room area. And I had this really deep, long conversation with one of these girls. And I remember just feeling and having this thought, wow, that went in one ear, out the other. Why did I waste my breath? And a few moments later, I was in the office, she was in the living room, and she was talking to another girl. And I don't think that she knew that I could hear her as clearly as I did, but I heard her literally echo my words as if they were her own thoughts. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize that she was even taking that in. So I wouldn't discredit any conversations as a caregiver or a parent that you're having with those teens. They might not be able to tell you or let you know that they helped, but they're going to take it in and they're going to listen to it if they find it valuable.
Absolutely. And I love that you shared that story, one, because it illustrates that point so nicely, but it also kind of points out that for us, if we pay attention in a different way and we're a little bit more open, which is what your suggestion here is, we can really see how they operate in that way, and things become a little bit clearer.
Yeah, definitely.
Very nicely described.
Oh, thank you.
So, Mallory, I would like to pose a challenge to you.
Okay.
If you can sum up your message to us today in 3 sentences, what would you say?
I will give this a try. I tend to be a little wordy. I would say probably don't avoid those difficult or uncomfortable conversations. Have them with your teen. It's so, so important. I would say also make sure you're coming from a curious information perspective. Even if you have all the information, it's very different when you're asking for the information versus telling the information to your teen. They're going to hear it and respond a lot better. And then I think the third thing would be, incorporate some sort of mindfulness practice for yourself as well. It will help you learn how to take that time, that step back to kind of reflect, take time for yourself, and also model for your teen that it's important to take time for yourself, and that's okay. You don't have to feel guilty about that.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the most crucial things, but it's often one of the things that gets put on the back burner when something's going on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Now, is there anything else that you'd like to add or for us to know?
Yeah, so I am in the process right now of creating some guided meditations for people if they want to be able to download them as part of their own mindfulness or meditative practice. I use this a lot in my sessions, and I've gotten many requests to go ahead and record, so I'm going to start doing that. So I'd
Wonderful.
like to, yeah, thank you. So I'd like to offer your listeners special offer where they can go to this website, and they like special just for your listeners where they can download one of those guided meditations for free.
That is amazing. Thank you. I know my listeners would like that so much, and I think it would be an invaluable resource. So I'll make sure to include that in the show notes. Thanks, Mallory.
Great. No
Now,
problem. Thank you for having me.
So, how can people learn more about you and your practice? After all of this information today, I think people are going to want to reach out to you and ask questions and just look for ways of accessing the other resources that you have available. How can they learn more about you and your practice?
Yeah, so being a teen therapist, I'm all over the web, all over social media. But I think probably the easiest, best way to reach me is through my website, which is www.mallorygrimste.com.
Great. So I will also post that in our show notes as well. Mallory, it's been so wonderful talking with you today about teens and about their families and their loved ones and how to support our teens as well as ourselves in the process. Thank you for making time to be here. I'm really excited about your recording, especially for our listeners today. And I think that will be an incredible asset in their lives. So thank you again for being here. Did you have any other questions before we wrapped up for today or comments that you wanted to make?
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much for inviting me. It's such an honor to be able to share this message, and I love your podcast, so everybody should binge listen.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it, and I like your suggestion. Everyone should. All right, Mallory. Well, thank you again, and thank you everyone for listening. I look forward to connecting again next time, and we'll have more things to take up Mallory's suggestion of binge listening with. All right. Take care. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Couch podcast, a space for celebrating you. The contents of this episode are for informational and supplemental purposes only and not a substitute for professional services. For more access to you beyond the couch, check out www.drsallynazari.com.